All right, I see what y'all are doing out there. It's showtime, folks. So, Cuckoo is the newest like neon release that's come out. It just came out this weekend, starring Hunter Schafer, and it's a movie that takes place in the German Alps, and it's essentially a movie about Hunter Schafer's character Gretchen, who's moving in with her dad and his new family, and leaving the United States after the passing of her mom. And when they get to these German Alps, her dad is starting to build a new resort for the owner, and things start going a little funny. And basically, that's where our story kicks off. Now, this one, guys, going into it, I didn't really think much of it. I realized it was a Neon production, and I think Neon is the production company that brought us Longlegs. So I was kind of, hopeful about this one, but I didn't really have much to, go off of other than the fact that it was Neon. So going into this, I didn't really have many thoughts on it. And there's certain things that work for me in this movie, and we're going to get into that. But there's also, things that were left to be desired. So just getting into the pros right away, I think the performances were really good. Hunter Schafer was believable. She plays a 17-year-old girl who's like trying to, I guess, blend in with her new family, and it's kind of difficult for her. She's just really feels like an outsider, and she really does play that role well, trying to bond with her stepsister at this point, and kind of just dealing with the fact that she's lost her mother and she's trying to get back to the United States. And it's just kind of one of those things where it's a believable character, you know what I mean? So the performances are good there. And then you also have Dan Stevens, who plays a believable villain. He recently came onto my radar just because of Abigail. He plays a role in the movie Abigail. And I was hopeful that he'd play a good, antagonist, and he does. He does a good job. The performances are done well. A second pro I have is the setting. The setting of this movie actually helps a lot. In Django Unchained, you hear when there's a German story, there's going to be a mountain, and sure enough, it takes place in Germany, and there's this mountain, and it's a wooded area, it's a resort, and it's dark, and that's something to be said about these horror kind of thrillers. I think it works well whenever they're set in these kind of isolated places, especially when it comes to Hunter Schafer playing an American that's out of water in Germany. It really helps the isolation feel, and I think the setting is done well. And lastly, I think the style choices that are used in this movie are a pro for it. It's something that I saw in Longlegs that I think carry over into Cuckoo. It's one of those, just like the saturation, the color use, the schemes, the use of sound is really, really good. There were times where I thought like what was going on in the movie was going on behind me, just sound-wise, and so that was really cool. And also uncomfortable because I just kept looking around thinking that somebody was whispering or whatever. And it worked for me. And I think the big thing, like the main antagonist or the slasher, if you will, their big thing is just high-pitched sounds. And I can't say I enjoyed the high-pitched sound, but I could say that it worked because the sound design was really well done. So that is some of the pros for me. Getting into the cons though, there was something about this movie that didn't really stick the landing for me. It was like you add a little too much mustard onto a sandwich. If you like mustard, it's like they added too much mayo. If you like mayo, it's like they added too much of something you didn't like. And it just didn't quite work as well as something like, I keep comparing it to Longlegs just because I know Neon was involved with that. But it felt like they were trying too hard to be different and kooky. And the thing is, I like the movie for being unique. It doesn't exactly like play into all the tropes that you've come to know when it comes to horror movies or thriller movies. And I wouldn't say this so much as a horror movie. It's more of like a thriller, and it's definitely more of a slow burn. So it's one of those things where it seemed like it was marketed more as like something terrifying, something very uncomfortable. And although there were elements of that in this, I never really felt the discomfort that I think they were going for. I never really felt anything like that. I was just kind of like, well, this is unique. This is a unique take on it. It's a fish out of water thing. The performances are good. But there's just something about this movie that didn't quite land for me. It wasn't a terrible watch, but it definitely wasn't what I thought I was getting myself into. And I think that ultimately is a con, just because that, again, plays into like the marketing kind of scheme of these movies. You think you're going to horror, and then you get like a slow burn thriller, borderline drama. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't for me. You know, Cuckoo had great performances. It had great setting, good sound design, and it was an overall enjoyable experience. However, this is something that's still going up against things like Deadpool, things like Abigail this year, Longlegs just recently, and ultimately Terrifier later this year. I think Cuckoo, unfortunately, is going to be one of those movies that just falls through the cracks. I don't think this is something you need to see in theaters. It is not a bad movie. It is definitely something that I would say is worth a watch one time if you're just interested in seeing what the slasher ends up being, who the enemy ends up being, and why they're doing it. That was a unique element, but even in that sense, there's clear inspirations from things like Alien, where ultimately, like, for a deep cut movie person, you're gonna see elements from other movies that are just done better in other movies. And for the, you know, common moviegoer, it might be a little too slow and a little too complicated to enjoy. My rating on this one is probably a 2.5 out of 5. Not a negative rating, just kind of right down the middle. So you're telling me there's a chance. There's a chance that you like this movie. It is definitely unique. It has a unique take on this kind of genre. I really did enjoy the performances. That was something to applaud. I believed them. But ultimately, this was just, it seemed like it was trying too hard to be convoluted and something weird, and it just didn't work for me, if personally. You know, I would definitely wait to watch this on streaming. There's so many things that are out in the movies right now that you can go out and check out. But I mean, if you're looking for some kind of just time burn or anything like that, this isn't going to be a terrible thing. This isn't going to steal your money. This is just a little bit more convoluted than it needed to be. And that's really all there is to this movie. But what did you guys think of Cuckoo? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Disagree with what I'm saying? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, we'd really appreciate if you like and share this video. It really helps me grow, and it really, you know, keeps me motivated to do these videos. Also, if you want to see more of good old Cuckoo, consider subscribing to the channel, because I appreciate it, and I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are in this movie. I love engaging with you guys about movies, talking and agreeing and disagreeing with, you know, just thoughts, because everybody has their own opinions on movies. Guys, if you're ever stuck in the German Alps, always remember something my friend Gretchen used to tell me, and that's